Hello there, everybody. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and welcome to another Game Idea Foundry talk. Hopefully, everybody will be able to see this well enough and it's working right because I went through the trouble to fight with OBS to get everything straight, and it looks like it's working well on the stream. So I think all my stuff is set right. This time we're going to be talking about two different old games. One I'm going to have to explain because I realize not very many people know about it. And the other one is pretty self-explanatory for the most part. So the first one is probably going to be a lot shorter than the second game just because, one, again, not as well known. And if I really want to go into the subject, well, I'll have another opportunity to do that. But before I do that, I would like to allow my partner in crime here to go ahead and introduce himself.
What up, people?
Wow, that was so anticlimactic.
Did you expect anything less?
True. Yeah, I can't complain on that front. I'm not even going to attempt to. But for all of my old school Sega heads that used to play the old Genesis games, I think it's also in the Sega Genesis collection. I can't remember if it is or not right this moment, and I'm not going to sit there and boot it up to find out. But the game is called Jewel Master. Now, the premise of this game was to collect, I believe it's 12 rings, 3 representing fire, water, wind, and earth. And you collect all these rings and fight this grand wizard type character by using the 4 most powerful versions of the rings to create this sword. And I never beat that game because the boss was always too difficult.
Did you
But
just say Grand Wizard?
I said grand wizard type character. And I was thinking more like Harry Potter, Star Wars, highly magically powered character. And I just realized what the term I said was. Now I really got to think that over again. But somebody who's very strong in magic, who was a centuries old evil entity. Now, for me, what I would do with it, and Jewel Master was a platformer. Like the game was very slow paced. Again, it was an early on Sega Genesis game. You could probably, I I would love to see someone speed run that game and actually do it fast, because that game was so slow until you got to the point where you got, like, I think the second wind ring, which allowed you to move faster. Um, but there's okay. Now I'm like not trying to over explain myself, but the game had different rings did different things. There was the fire set. Each one was a different version of fire. They got progressively stronger. The only ones that were really dynamic were the wind rings, because one would make you run faster, one gave you a higher jump, and the third one gave you a double jump. And I don't know how they figured that was how wind worked back then, but that was on the developers of the game. I don't know what Sega was thinking, but I would take that concept, and instead of it being 3 rings of fire, earth, water, and wind, you would have one for each of those. Then you'd have a dark element ring, and then a light element ring to give you 6 different rings. So polar opposites would cancel each other out, meaning no effect from using those rings together. But then stuff like fire and wind could be put together to create, like, maybe a stronger flame attack, or you could put water and wind together and possibly make something like lightning or cause clouds and things like that, or ice, depending on what you would what a developer would want to do with it. And I would change the story from being so bland and boring that this guy is just chasing down this wizard, not wizard, warlock. That's better. That's better to say warlock. He was chasing down this warlock, trying to kill him. I'd like to make it more or less like there's like an organization that he's trying to take down, like an ancient one. It's still along the same lines, but we could keep the platforming elements intact. I'd probably make it more fast paced. The character doesn't need to get the rings to move faster. Just like a skill tree could be added in to upgrade his abilities instead of the rings themselves doing that, because you would have the rings for his attack and defense strategies.
Just don't call the organization 13. Just don't do it.
No, it would have to be something along the lines of stealing it from Assassin's Creed, so they'd probably be Templars.
Yeah.
It's an old world fantasy adventure anyway, so it would have to have something like that. Or we could just straight up steal stuff from Fire Emblem or Game of Thrones, any source that you just want to find some bad guys you can take ideas from.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Game of Thrones probably working. Just call them the Lannisters.
Actually, that wouldn't be bad. That would actually work pretty well on it. But I'm trying to think of a way to describe the game without overrunning the plot. But you basically start off trying to, well, you're searching for rings, and if you don't find all the rings necessary, there's no way you're beating the game, and you actually have to search the levels for those rings. So it, as the game progressed on, you could make it to the end without having the strongest rings, but you would be nowhere near capable of beating that final boss at all. You'd be totally screwed because they made the
You have to actually take your time to
yeah,
break it down.
because they came up with the brilliant idea that you had to have all the rings and then put polar opposite rings on each other to create the sword. I would take that whole, I would put that element in the game, but having the character have his own upgradable stats and techniques and stuff would probably make it better, because toward the end of that game, even if you made that sword, it was hard to attack the main boss because you had to get in close on him to hit him, and he's flying around the screen like the Flash.
Oh, well, that sucks. And
Yeah.
it's unfair.
Yes, it's very unfair. Now, with a character having a skill tree and being able to upgrade his abilities and stuff, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. It would just be something that would be inherent to the character and not the items that you have in the game.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I would still repeat the idea of making the sword with the different elements bouncing off of each other as polar opposites, but I just wouldn't do it the way that the game originally did. That was completely unfair, and that's the only reason I have not beat that game. But Jewel Master again was a really quick one. That's why I didn't want to make it the main focus, because it was just like, it's old and obscure and it didn't really have a lot of story. Now what they could do is take keys from Assassin's Creed, the Chronicles games, and have story beats in between the stages for you to get more information and stuff. But the game really didn't have a whole lot as far as the story originally went.
Okay, yeah, because Chronicles, that sounds like something that you could pull off with that Chronicles engine
Yeah.
if you're gonna do something like that. My only problem with Chronicles was I forgot it was an Assassin's Creed game, which means one hit and you're dead. So that was kind of annoying. Because especially like when they did the what was the China one, the one where
Oh
you play
yeah.
Xiao Jun, and I'm like, wait a minute, she ain't no assassin. She coming to kill this dude.
Mm.
Like that doesn't make any sense. If you want a stealth game, you should just say we're gonna make a stealth game. This is a side scroller beat 'em up at this point. So yeah, that yeah.
And they didn't execute everything well with that, but
At all.
that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that conceptually, with how that worked out, that type of play style would work. But obviously, you don't want your character to die in 1 to 2 hits.
Yeah, you want them to at least have like a life bar or something like that,
Yeah.
or some kind of situation that you know yields some damage that some damage can be taken.
Hmm. And since you would want to make it explorative, each level would have to be able to be explored, or it would have to be more streamlined to be like Metroid or Castlevania, where you're searching through like a rather generous area and you can fast travel back and forth if you need to. Instead of once you pass one area, you can't go back. Actually, I should say more like Cyber Shadow. Cyber Shadow was a better example.
Oh, that's the one that just released, right?
Yeah, that game is actually really good, and I think that that would be a good template to start with. Because the game's difficult, but you can take damage, and there's a lot that you can do and adjust on the fly. So that would work well with it. And then between stages, you could shop for different items to improve your character skills, or to open up different areas in stages that you couldn't get to before, so that you can get the different rings. Probably be more than six, though. I just threw out the six that I came up with off the top of my head, so there could be more things that they could add in if they really wanted to. But it's just, again, I wanted to get a baseline for it, not sit there and like do a full breakdown of it, because there really wasn't much to Jewel Master other than it is a difficult platformer that was set in a fantasy world. But that's about it.
The fantasy genre of platformers. They either good or they're either bad. There is no in between. Now we really think about it.
Especially not back then. That was a back then that game was good for the time. Now I could see people throwing their controller through a wall or two because of frustration trying to beat that game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff we played, man. Yeah, people don't last long.
No. People think Dark Souls is difficult. They have not seen.
You have not played Shinobi.
No.
You have not played Shinobi. You have not played Ninja Gaiden 3 on NES.
Ugh.
You have not played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Why
on
you, why,
NES.
why you gotta remind people of that pain?
Every time I hear it talk so hard, I'm like, you wouldn't last 5 seconds. You
Nah.
wouldn't last 5 seconds in a lad.
Oh, that's horrible. But yeah, that was a difficult game.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to drop Jewel Master for now because, again, I have something else I think would be a lot more diverse to discuss. And it's something Nintendo's been ignoring for a long ass time that people have been kind of wanting outside of, more Mario Karts.
The other 15 games on that list of people that's always complaining about stuff that Nintendo hadn't worked on. Dude, it's like a big list, dude.
It is a big list, but I think this is probably toward the bottom of that list because people got Mario Kart, so they're not going to sit there and be too worried about Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, the only
Which,
game that actually gave Mario Kart a run for its money.
yeah, because in my opinion, honestly back then, between that and Mario Kart 64, I would have played Diddy Kong Racing far more often than Mario Kart 64. The different vehicles, the tracks, and the ways you can play through different levels, and having the daggone adventure mode.
The way that Rare pretty much flipped the bird at EAD, yeah. Oh, y'all made Mario Kart, huh? Y'all could put decals on y'all car, huh? Throw that bitch roll. Yeah. Huh? What? Huh? Yeah, y'all say something? Yeah. Throwing them better tracks. Yeah, huh? What?
It overall, that was a much better game. It just was. So
That's when you know you have two good development teams in your stable when they're pretty much just throwing shots at each other in by the games they make.
like that's the
You
type of
made,
competition I would prefer.
yeah, oh, well, you made Mario Kart? Alright, we got a kart racing game for you too. Let's see who does better. That's what it was with Rare and EAD. And it's funny because Miyamoto pretty much admitted that.
Hey, look, inner office competitions, I prefer that.
Yeah, yeah.
But for Diddy Kong Racing, obviously you can't put Conker and Banjo in there. But there are plenty of other characters from the Donkey Kong franchise that could fit in Diddy Kong Racing.
Well, to be fair,
Oh yeah, yeah,
If you
you
wanted to,
could.
but yeah, I mean,
No, maybe not Conquer. I don't think anybody's.
shit.
I don't think anybody wants to see Conquer go back to being a little kid. It just won't work now. Too many people know of him as a drunk squirrel.
Oh yeah, that is right. Yeah, you're
That
right.
just
He
ain't
is
gonna
as a
work.
drunk squirrel in there. Yeah.
A drunk squirrel with a British accent that cusses everybody out.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, Nintendo's for kids. Okay.
But there's other characters they could replace him at least with. They could put Trixie in there. Hell, they could go to other companies and see if they use their mascots. They could probably sneak Spyro in there or something, or
They
Crash.
probably, which they probably would, because yeah, they probably would if they were going to do that.
Yeah, but I think like a full remaster of that game, not remaster, remake, because at this point it needs to be built from the ground up.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
full remake of that game that has the same basic system to it where you had the rockets, you had the boosters, and then you had the, was it the oil slick that they
I think
had?
it was a oil. I think it was a oil slick.
Yeah, have those three weapons in there because you could upgrade them by picking up more of the same one, make them stronger.
Yeah,
Make the upgrades be able to go further, maybe allow you to boost it like instead of just three times, maybe boost it five.
yeah. Well, who would you have working on it? Would you have
Probably,
Shin do it?
I'd probably split it between Shannon and Retro
That
because
makes
there's
sense.
still people from Retro that were a part of Rareware back then, so they'd have some insight on the game. Hell, I'd even throw EAD on it. Have all three of them work together, see if they can make something out
I
of it.
mean, yeah, I mean, because that format actually does work for Smash. I mean, Smash got like 4 or 5 different companies working on Smash
Yep.
at the same time. So yeah, that format does work apparently.
Yeah. And I would use the adventure mode the same way it was used in the N64 game to use it to unlock other characters, to open up different race courses and stuff like that, but keep it be an open world adventure mode where you're just driving different locations and then you do different races along those locations. Maybe even have like a money system in the game where you have to have a certain amount of in-game cash in order to participate in the races, and you have to win them to unlock the other ones.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I know that
that
would
makes sense.
frustrate a lot of people that just want to buy their way through it, but
Nah, you're gonna have to play your way through it.
it makes more sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
But along with the weapon system, I'd also want all the characters have their own special weapon, which again would just follow the course of the upgrades. So Diddy could steal his special from Mario Kart Double Dash and put that in there. I'm trying to remember all the other characters that were in that game because they put a bunch of them in there. It was Diddy. They had the elephant character, the genie.
Didn't they have Frankie in there too?
Nah, he wasn't in there. But go ahead, throw him in there. Hell, throw
I mean,
all the Kongs in there.
yeah, the Funky Kong, Disco Kong, the Karate Kong, all of them.
Just throw them all in there. Have them all have a different special that could screw somebody up on the course. That way, one, they'll add a little bit more dynamics to the game.
Yeah.
And I think that adding in maybe a couple other vehicle types because you had the car, the hovercraft, and the plane. Actually, maybe you don't need to add any other vehicle types, or like have levels that allow you to swap between them in the middle of the race, like a relay. So add in different racing types.
That could actually work, but you don't want to make it look like Sega All Stars. You don't want to make it look like that.
Nah, not like that. What I'm saying is more or less where it just swaps between laps. Like once you clear a lap, it'll automatically switch you to
Okay. Okay.
another vehicle for that leg of the race, or
Yeah,
or
that would.
and have in challenges where you have to use a disadvantaged vehicle on a track against one that has an advantage in order to unlock something else. Because I
That's the
know
part I don't give people love.
that's the fun part though. Because I used to do that with my friends when I was younger with certain courses where they would fly through them. I'd use the hovercraft because I was just better at the game than they were. So I would do that in order to try to even it out. Half the time most of the time they won in those situations, but it was still fun.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to say about that. Like if you can pull that off, then yeah, that's so skill.
Yeah. And some of those boss races were like that anyway. They were extremely unfair.
Oh, dude, boss races back then, man. That game, Extreme G, them boss races, you be like, you be flipping your TV off. You be shooting bird at TV because there's no way you're supposed to win them. Like you win them by pure luck,
Yeah.
pure unadulterated luck. Like
If
what?
you got if you got your
Especially Extreme G.
oh yeah, but that was always if you got yourself going off the boost before the race got started, which was hard as hell to do in Diddy Kong Racing for some reason.
And then you just have to try to hold on to that lead because the second you lose it, you might as
You
well
ain't
just
getting it
start
back.
over. Yeah.
But this is like there's a lot of stuff that they could do to add to that game to make it more fun. Hell, they could even add in. I was thinking it was like taken from F-Zero GX, where you can create your own vehicles from different parts.
That would be cool.
It'd be a nice little touch to add in there. And I wouldn't expect them to put Mii's in. This would be one of the few games where there would be customization involved that Nintendo could have a hand in, and not say don't put Mii's in it.
They will put me in it. I'm literally talking about that.
They
It's
already
a
got them in
racing game.
Mario Kart, so you don't really
Yeah,
need them.
it's a racing game. It's gonna be 3D Mario Kart. It's gonna be in it. Yeah, they're going to do that.
But I figured doing it that way, you can have people set up their own vehicles. They can have like a really fast vehicle or something that's really defensive and recovers quick, depending on their play style. That could be another reason for having some of those quest races is just to get extra parts for putting together your different mobility options.
Yeah, yeah, if you're gonna, yeah, yeah, because you got to give people a reason to do those. If you don't give them a reason to do those, they're not gonna do them.
Yeah,
So, yeah, if they're trying to make a certain thing, then yeah, I mean it works for Capcom.
and
Monster, I mean,
this would just be a better implementation. Say you could beat the race the first time, you get one part, you come back and challenge it again at a higher difficulty, and earn better and better parts. Or maybe even you have to do a certain select number of races to qualify to get those parts.
in which that's probably gonna be what people will be like. Okay, I can do that. There's something about like always having to say, oh, well, you got to beat everything. And people be like, nah, man, that'll turn them off, especially if it's too ridiculous.
Then you don't want to make it a collectathon thing. You just want to
Yeah,
make it fun. But like the most collectathon type thing you want to put in there is like maybe one special coin or banana or something per race. You don't want it to be something where they got to hunt out a bunch of different stuff and try to keep the lead of the race.
yeah, yeah. That would get on everybody's nerves extremely quickly.
Yeah, that was one of the failings of freaking what was it, Sonic R. In order to win a race, to get everything and win a race was difficult on one track. So like I wouldn't want to see them go down that route because it would just tick a bunch of people off. So, and I also think that maybe they could do this and it would just refresh the franchise. And I know Nintendo likes to go with, oh, we can't figure out what to do with these games. I'm like, y'all, if I can think of it, I know you guys can.
I don't think I think it's that, but I also think like, and me and you've already talked about this before, where that sales number does does play a factor. It ain't just you can't think of the So, or
The,
you buy it used, which doesn't help us
no,
at
it don't.
all. So,
Not
I
in the
mean,
least.
or you emulate it because how dare you buy a Wii U?
That's true.
You know, like I won't be cool if I buy a Wii U. So nah, I had to emulate this. Like, so yeah, you can't. I don't blame them for some of that stuff they say. I kind of don't blame them because if you go back and look at like the sales numbers, you'd be like, they kind of got a point.
They do have a point.
Like they're not a conglomerate. All they make is games. So they're not a conglomerate. They don't have like electronics division. Uh, you know, which I've been saying they need to have an anime division, but that's just me.
Everybody's been saying that since the damn
Star Fox,
Star Fox and Smash Brothers anime segments that they did.
freaking Sakurai.
Well, looking at these numbers for Diddy Kong Racing, it did pretty decently.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, 4.5 million copies worldwide for the 64.
Oh yeah, that is not bad.
That is really good.
Yeah.
So I think uh, I think that it would work. I think that they could, especially for the Switch, as popular as the Switch is, this would be a moneymaker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if they keep the play style the way that it was for the 64, like I just basically like we just basically talking about, add in a few tweaks and enhancements to make the game more streamlined, make it play better, make it feel faster, add in the different racing speeds, they'd have a winner.
Yeah, because like the game was hella fun back on the 64. I'm not even gonna front. So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You could throw in online play, put in put in ghost races for people. Like who would not want to have the opportunity to race Bill Trennan's Ghost in this game to see if they could beat it?
I don't want that day. I don't want that. I don't want that smoke. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want that smoke. I don't even want that smoke.
Oh, I mean, with the best parts for you to customize your own little car and hovercraft and plane, you might want to do it.
If I could put like three rocket launchers, some some if I could make a recreate an Aston Martin, a James Bond Aston Martin, maybe. But with all weapons, maybe. Nah, not hell no.
Well, I said racing is Ghost. I'm not talking about actually playing him, playing him in real time.
I'm saying his ghost. I'm saying I need it for his ghost as well. I need it for both. There's
Oh
no
man,
difference. You being
but
trolls too much. There's no difference.
yeah, that's true. That, that's true. But it just be a lot of it'd be a lot of stuff that they could add into it. Plus having an online racing mode for that.
To say the least.
Mm. But if you could have like online mode with like, oh, what the hell happened to my video?
I have no idea. I just
Hold
see
on,
red eye.
I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. There we go. It'll come back. I bumped the cord, but having like 16 some odd racers online playing this, and it's not like they couldn't fill out the roster with a bunch of different characters.
Yeah, they could. I mean, just once again, I never thought that they would ever put in Link in Mario Kart, so they would probably do that since, to be honest, Donkey Kong is Nintendo, so they'll probably just do the same thing.
Yeah, they could.
They'll probably just put Fire Emblem characters in instead of
I would.
just to be different.
That would be so goofy.
Man, I can so see it working.
It would be. That would be way off the mark to do, but it would. I could see them doing it with some of the weirder characters from Fire Emblem, like Tiki.
That's what I mean. I mean, like, because we all saw Link in that little bitty cart with his knees up to his ears.
And
Yeah,
that's a whole different link from than any other links because none of them were the same.
yeah. But somehow he found his way into Mario Kart, and they put him. And in the original trailer, you saw him in that little bitty cart with his knees up like this, and him on the steering wheel. I'm like, just put him on the damn bike. Stop doing this, man, like that.
But it's just there's so many daggone options they have. They could actually remake some of the Mario Kart courses and base them on the island from Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah,
No, nobody would really notice unless they played both games back to back.
and you just said it right. Nobody would notice. So you said it right. Nobody would notice. So yeah,
So I'm just looking at the opportunity that they have to actually make something with it, and it's just like y'all don't want to do a Mario Kart constantly. Get that one per generation, maybe two, fine. But you've got other franchises and other things that y'all could build off of that nothing's being done with. Like, and that was what Diddy Kong Racing happened twice, 64 and then on the DS,
yeah.
and it went nowhere from there.
Which I still do find that odd because normally if something does sell well, they'll at least do something with it. But I have heard like if their team leaves and that team is gone, if it ain't one of the main ones like Zelda and Mario and Smash and stuff, they're probably not gonna touch it because they just leave it for that team. So that's why like a lot of the rare stuff that they did stayed gone for a while, except for Star Fox.
But they need to do something with it. Again, there's opportunity. Hell, they could pull Star Fox characters for it.
Yeah,
There's,
yeah,
again, there's plenty of options. It's just up to them to decide if that's what they want to do.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that would work better.
It would. I would even go as far as if they really wanted to push the envelope with it, make a track editor. Put a track editor in there and
Yeah, people will lose their mind if they did that.
put a track editor in there, have it set up where you could, again, do your own stipulations for the races on there, like, one track can only have cars, or it can have cars and hovercrafts but no planes. Again, they got the opportunity to do it. They can put it out there for people. I think a lot more people would enjoy it than what they give credit for that game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you look at it, yeah. I've always wondered why that game didn't get more love because you didn't really hear about it during the N64. You just kind of had to like see somebody else playing it.
Hell, the only reason I even knew about that game was because I think I went to a friend's birthday party and he got it as a birthday gift.
Yeah, I mean, because who did I play it? I played when I was in college and somebody on our dorm room had it. So that's how I found out about
I
it.
never saw any advertising for that game, and I was in the video game magazines all the time, so I never saw anything for it.
Yeah,
So, like, I'm just saying, Nintendo, the ball is in your court. I mean, it's not like y'all haven't done several things that I suggested before.
and in 3 months we're gonna have the return of Diddy Kong.
I mean, what was
Teaser
it?
trailer.
What was it, about 6 months ago? I said what they should do the Ninja Gaiden trilogy, and now we got the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
what? Just about 4 years ago, I talked about Skyward Sword HD for the Switch, and almost word for what I said is what happened with that game. Outside of adding in the Zelda and Impa Quest,
Which they didn't say they did or did not do, so we don't
that
know
that's the
yet.
only thing that they haven't said. But I'm assuming right now they haven't done that.
Yeah, it seems like to me it's probably just gonna be
up,
it's gonna be.
updated
I
controls and faster loading times.
Yeah, because to be honest, I don't. The reason why I don't think they, because they just all right. Look, people been asking us about it, and we can actually do it. So let's just do it.
Hmm.
That's what it was. I mean, people were asking about it. I wouldn't. I mean, to be honest, it's not my favorite Zelda game. The and I'll tell you why. Zelda games, that particular Zelda game, it started off hot. Then that second half got tedious because all that backtracking and all that other stuff you had to keep doing. Then the last hour and a half of that game
Yep.
is when they said, you know what, we sorry for the last 10 hours you had to do all this damn backtracking. Here, have fun. And by the way, this is the real bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, you could have did this early. So that's why I'm like, I know other people were happy about it. I was just like, yeah, I mean, okay, alright.
But it's just I'm looking at this. I'm like, they got so much opportunity to do something with it, and it's like they're just not. Like
The other
the
thing too is who. Well, you know what? You made a good point. Retro, because remember like a few years ago, Retro kept hiring people,
yep.
but they didn't say what they were working on. Like,
Nope.
what the hell? It's like 800 of y'all now. What the hell are y'all working on?
I gotta imagine. You gotta imagine that they were building up to have multiple different teams to work on different projects all together.
Yeah.
And actually, I just realized it. I didn't even think about it when I was looking it up for Diddy Kong Racing, but the DS version of Diddy Kong Racing did have a feature to create your own racetracks and to do character customization, and it had the online multiplayer.
On the DS game?
Yep, it did.
Huh.
I just read it right here because I wasn't. I thought that it did, and I just couldn't remember.
I don't think I played it on the DS, so
I never did, but I just remembered hearing about it, and I thought it was like, didn't they added that? But yeah, it's right there. So they did have those features in that game. So basically, it'd be a mishmash of both games with updated visuals and more than likely a much more stable online. And to again, opportunity for Nintendo to just make money. People ask for it. They have an opportunity to just make more money. That's how I look at it. I would be very happy to see the little monkey with the red hat get his racing game back.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, especially after what they did to the Suspects Emissary.
why you even have to
Shame.
go there?
It wasn't that damn shame.
You didn't even have to go there.
Hey, well,
But
the truth shall set you free.
it would just be a really good idea.
Yeah, yeah, that would actually would be a good one, and that's one I can actually see, like people actually jumping behind, especially if they market it properly.
They
Uh,
don't even look. They don't even have to market it properly. They released this game. How many people? How much you want to bet people be right on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, anything that they could share videos of them racing in this game and beating people in races.
but the reason why I say marketing because the original 64 game didn't have any marketing, so you gotta have some.
It probably had like $100 budget.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is one of the situations where they probably would have to do something. And knowing Nintendo nowadays, they would do a Treehouse Live with it.
Oh yeah, they
They
would.
they do a Treehouse
They
Live. So
would spend an hour breaking down this game and how it works and how you can customize each character to your liking with different outfit bits as you play through the game and earn money to buy them in the different shops while you're driving around.
yeah, I
So
mean that's what I'm like. They would have to do something, and I think they would in that respect. but yeah, they would have to just because you have to try to get the people because Mario Kart pretty much has a monopoly on the kart racing genre of gaming. It just has a monopoly on it. It's kind
Mm.
of like when Sony tried to do the whole PlayStation All Stars, it just didn't work. So you'd have to like try to like, okay, look, this is separate from that.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. Yeah, they probably need to get Star Fox characters, probably throw in a couple Fire Emblem characters, just to be like, look, we different from them. And if you get this one, you get to play with all these guys, you know,
I
as
could
opposed to not.
I could see them throwing in like chibi or young versions of Fox and
Yeah,
Falco and Slippy. They'd have to skip
Peppy.
Pep. Yeah, they'd have to skip Peppy. He was already old by the time they were young. But I could see him sticking those characters in there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would work. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you do it like that, yeah, that'll work. I think people will be because that'll give them a reason to jump off of Mario Kart and say, hey, let's jump on Donkey Kong because Donkey Kong got this character, and this character, and they actually have Roy and Martha.
It would be funny to see those characters driving a car.
Yes,
But
it would be freaking hilarious.
nobody
And I agree
expected to
with you.
see Link doing it or riding a motorcycle. So I mean,
Nope, nope. My only request would be please let them have body appropriate carts
yeah.
because Martha's supposed to be like 6'1", 6'2". I don't want to see his. I don't want that man get some cramp while he
Well,
driving.
again, just make them chibi or make them
Yeah,
the kid versions of them, and just stick them in a world they didn't know anything about.
yeah. Because now that I think about it, they should have put young Link in there instead of adult Link.
Oh yeah, that probably should
That
have.
that would it probably would have made way more sense.
They weren't thinking about it at the time. That's all that
Yeah,
was.
it was like, look, man, throw Link in there and tell people to be quiet. Like, okay,
But
all right.
you could also take some Animal Crossing characters. You could take the villager, Isabelle, Tom Nook, KK. You can stick all those characters in there.
Yeah, it'll work.
Hell, they don't even have to necessarily be racist. They could be shop owners and stuff like that. Mechanics, just whatever.
Yeah, yeah, they can actually be Raccoon Pimp Lords and Slumlords. I mean, yeah, no, yeah, whatever.
He
Tom,
already does that.
yeah, Tom Nook, boy, Tom Nook gonna get them bells one way or another.
Yeah, but it's there's just a lot that they could do with it. So
Yeah,
I'm just like, y'all sitting on a cash cow that it could, in theory, do better than Mario Kart if they gave it a chance to do it.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you are gonna, because Nintendo does have those once a generation games, right? So why not do another one? Because people be wanting more. Just do another one, but just do it with another group. Since yeah, now that I think about it, Nintendo is the only company in gaming with a severe, like ridiculous log of first party mascots that they can use for anything if they wanted to. So just pick one and just go for it. I mean, that way you don't have to worry about people saying, "Oh well," like no, I'm not gonna bring that up. So you just have people not complaining about when are we gonna get this? We'll give you this because you know this only comes once a generation, so we'll give you this,
Yep.
and that way you get it's still kart racing, but it's just two different. You put them out at least 2 years apart. That way you don't have to worry about cannibalizing.
Yeah. And on top of that, again, the variety allows people to have different. Certain games will have strengths that'll work for some people, and some people have strengths that work better in the other game. Which is another reason I really want another F Zero, but I already know why it's not happening. But
Yeah,
just for the fact of the matter is just how a Diddy Kong racing game would handle doesn't have to be the same as a Mario Kart game. They can be similar, but they don't have to be exact. And playstyle for one could just be that much different for somebody to take on than the other game. So You could have a full list of people who are top ranked racers in Mario Kart that just don't do the same thing in Diddy Kong, even if they try. So there's a lot of things that they could do with it. Hell, they could use it for esports.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they really want, if they really wanted to go to that crowd, which I don't really care for the esports crowd, but that's just me personally. But if they want to, jump into that arena, so to speak, that's a game we can do because you already got with Splatoon. They actually have Splatoon for that. They try to get arms in there, but people just didn't want to give it a shot. Arms is actually fun. Um, Smash got put in there even though it wasn't supposed to be put in there.
It fell in there. It just
Yeah,
fell
Smash
into an
got
open
thrown in
space.
there. Yeah, because it wasn't supposed to be there. It really wasn't. You got people fussing and fighting about it now. But yeah, if they wanted to, yeah, that would be a way to go. I mean, if they wanted to get into that space.
Yeah, it's there's so much room for something else other than Mario, and that's one of people's biggest complaints is that they don't want to see a whole lot more of Mario. Mario is he's sellable.
You
He's
Oh,
very
you gonna see
sellable.
Mario. Mario is gonna be in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. You finna see a lot more Mario than you ever wanted to. Mario is Nintendo. I mean, he's the franchise.
Yeah, he's he is the company
Yeah, I mean it's the face of a Japanese company is a Italian plumber
from Brooklyn
from Brooklyn.
that
Go
step
figure.
that steps on turtles,
Yeah, go figure. They gets teleported to a clearly psychedelic world.
doing
Go
drugs,
figure. Yeah, go figure. So he had to get mushroom powers. Go figure.
and
We can keep this going.
it, there's so much. Again, it's just so much stuff that they could pull from. They could pull from the daggone Donkey Kong games for different items and materials to use in a Diddy Kong racer.
Yeah,
So,
mostly having to do with peanuts and bananas, but yeah.
well, I mean, Diddy did have those peanut cannons. That could literally be one of his specials where he shoots you twice and the peanuts blow up and then they pop your tires or make it hard for you to travel on the terrain that you're on, just as an example. Because you could shoot them, the shells break, and the peanuts break inside, makes the ground hard to roll on. Or if you're in the air in a plane, shoots the plane and clogs up your engines for a select amount of time. Don't take that much work to figure stuff out like that. That was just something that just popped into my head. So again, if I could think of this, I know someone there has had to have thought of it and thought it further along.
Yeah, it's probably one of those situations where it was like a money thing, timing thing, or do we have enough resources to actually put toward this project? Situation like that, because all of that comes into play on the business side of it.
Yeah.
All of that comes like, okay, look, we got this, and this we want to get out. Um, so we got to focus on this, and this at the moment, and we just got to put that on the back burner for now. And then, if we get lost in the shuffle, just get lost in the shuffle.
It just makes you think how many games that they have that could have happened that just haven't because there was nowhere to go with it or they just did not have the manpower for it at the moment.
Yeah, I think like a lot of Nintendo's problem is twofold. It's manpower because some people think they got a 50,000 employee company strong. I'm like, dude, I don't think it's that many employees at Nintendo that makes the games. That's the actual. I don't think it's that many at those offices like that.
Mm-mm.
So they could have this done. Like, no, they probably couldn't.
Their teams are much smaller than people think.
Yeah, they are not the giant size. You know, they're not giant size. So yeah, yeah. That's one of those things where I'm like, people really need to rethink that. Honestly.
Yeah. And yeah, Trinell, that the first Diddy Kong Racing did definitely the adventure mode was also a story mode. So yes, it would have to be included. It would need to
Yeah,
be included.
yeah, because I would suck if they didn't.
Like and they would have to bring back the genie elephant for you to race him multiple times just to find out he is not the reason that you're racing at all over again. Like make it so that he's putting you through all these tough races because he's trying to train you, make you a better racer. Because that whole story was contrived as hell, but it was fun.
Yeah, as long as it's fun, I don't think people would get mad about it.
Mm-mm.
Because you're not trying to take that. If you're taking Donkey Kong Diddy Kong racing seriously, you might want to rethink your life goals. Because that's not to be taken seriously. That is the epitome of let's have some fun, let's be silly. It's a Saturday morning cartoon,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So yeah, I would never take it. I would expect a game like that to be ridiculous, like Super Mario Odyssey levels of ridiculous, where you're in a world where kitchen utensils are actually sentient.
Oh, it needs to be worse than that. It needs to be
Yeah,
far worse than that. Just because it would make it so much more enjoyable for it to be so
yeah,
wacky.
wacky, and everybody would. I think everybody would actually go nuts and crazy because as long as you can laugh, there you go.
And then this would be the new racer, the new kart racer that's destroying friendships.
Yeah, as long as they actually retain that iconic blue shade.
The
It's gotta have
barrel.
the blue shade.
It couldn't be a blue shell, but it could be the DK barrel.
A blue DK barrel. You gotta make it blue.
Yep.
Because you gotta make it like, look, we know what this is for. You know,
It's got to make people sad.
yeah. If you are in the league and you see something blue coming, you know what this is.
Get a nice little warning sign before it blows up on you.
Yeah, yeah. Because I would be laughing. I know that's wrong, but I would be laughing. I'd be laughing because it's funny when it don't happen to you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely funny when it don't happen to you and you just ride by and wave.
Yeah, you just ride by the destruction,
But
and then when it happened to you,
everybody gets mad.
yeah,
But instead of it just blowing up like the blue shell does, the blue barrel could freeze you in place. So you can see everybody just rolling by, freeze you in place for like 10 seconds.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, people would hate me. People would purely hate my guts for that.
Yeah, there would be a lot of mad. Yeah, yeah, that would destroy a hell of a lot of friendships, boy.
And it's just something I think would be the most enjoyable way to piss a bunch of people off.
Yeah, I mean those are facts.
I could
I know
not.
the honest trailer guys would have a field day with it.
Oh, they would love that. They would love that.
The honest trailer guys would go to work. They would go straight to town with that video.
Oh, not Trinell. That would have to be a follow up. A DK Barrel. Say DK Barrel. You know, they really wanted to troll fans. Make a new Diddy Kong Racing Double Dash where you can switch partners. Nah, that would have to be the follow up. You don't want to do that in the first game. Do that in the follow up, and then everyone will have an extremely valid reason to be mad at Nintendo for not doing the follow up to Mario Kart Double Dash.
Which I'm surprised they never did. But at the same time, I'm really not surprised because every Mario Kart has been pretty much different. So
Yeah,
for the most part,
but they don't have to do that with Diddy Kong Racing.
yeah, they don't have to.
They could go into those territories that Mario Kart will not go and can't go anymore,
Yeah,
and use that for it.
because I really don't know where Mario Kart is going to go next.
I mean, they already got home circuit, and the next step from that would be doing live home circuit. And I don't know how they're going to do that online.
Yeah, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I mean, the only other thing I can think of now is they basically make it wave racing, do jet skis. Have a part where they just do jet skis.
Yeah, but that kind of the hover cars kind of defeat the purpose of that.
Yeah, unless you take the hover part out.
That's true. They had to take the hover cars and the sails out.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I can think of. Because other than that, I'm like they pretty much did the stuff that they can do. Sega when they made boats, so
They made transforming cars
yeah,
basically.
they made transforming cars and stuff. So I mean, at this point, you like if you do that, people gonna be like, oh, why y'all copying them? So you can't really do that. So my thing is that just put it all out on the water. have the cars just be on the water. I mean, they already drive them underwater. Which can we be honest for a second? How the hell did they survive that? Because they have drowned.
Look, you can't apply logic to that. You don't apply no damn logic to Mario Kart.
You don't apply logic to anything with Mario's name on it.
That is true. You cannot do that. You can't
I
at
mean, you
all.
could. Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but you'll drive yourself crazy.
Oh yeah, you definitely would. You would be nuts to attempt to do that.
That's all. Like, I wonder how those meetings go when they're like, okay, we need to come up with a new thing for this, and they just they're like, let's just everybody just put whatever you want into the pile, and we're just gonna pick what, see what happens. Like,
Oh no,
I don't. Cause some of this stuff doesn't make any sense how it gets in and it works.
it works because it don't make sense. That's that's why.
It just does not make any sense. So yeah,
See, I think what the thing is that they would have to do with Diddy Kong Racing is stick with the theming of it being on an island. It doesn't have to be the same island. It could be different
yes,
islands, but it's still I think it makes more sense to have it on an island.
yeah, that makes sense. That actually makes sense. Yeah, 'cause that way you don't have to worry about being compared to anybody.
You just
All
don't
the
have to worry.
artifacts are islands.
Yeah, just don't have to worry about it moving into Mario Kart's territory. Is all I'm thinking about because Mario Kart does so many different environments, whereas Diddy Kong Racing they could stick with the jungle theme, like or
Yeah,
the island theme where the island has different and the different biospheres in it, like in the actual game where you had the tropical area, you had the wintry area, you had the volcanic area. And there was another one I don't remember what it was, but you had four different types of areas. So, and I just think that that would work.
yeah, that actually would. Yeah, cause you're right. It'd be different enough.
Yep, be just different enough. Then people would be hating on that game once they figured out that you can't beat the elephant in a fair race without cheating some way.
Well, let's be honest. They're gonna hate on it regardless. They're gonna hate on it because it's there. I mean, if anything, that's what I've learned.
They'd be like,
They're gonna hate on it because it's there.
it's not fair that he's on a flying carpet and can avoid all of the hazards.
Yep.
Oh man, who's making the music for Diddy Kong Racing? David Wise. I don't know if David Wise would do it.
Grant Kirkhope. Just get Grant Kirkhope to do it.
Good choice.
Just get Grant Kirkhope. I mean, that'd be the first person I call.
Or who, or whoever's actually doing the music for all the Mario Kart games,
Yeah.
which I have no idea who that is. Oh, I want to say Miyamoto's working on most of the music for those games for some reason, but I know he isn't.
Yeah.
I just know he's a musician, so that was the first thought in my head. But I don't know if we can drag this on too much more because I think we've hit every different avenue that Diddy Kong Racing touched. I want to say we did in every possibility that would make it a really good experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered it all because there really is nowhere else to go other than Trinell's suggestion of doing a double dash. And you can't do that on the first game back. You just can't. You can't, because that would piss too many people off. You want to do that afterwards for a better effect. So yeah, I think we're done. I think we're done. Only outside of naming other characters to throw in there, like maybe Yoshi or something. Not really anywhere else to go with this one.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to call it here. We actually got a pretty lengthy discussion out of Diddy Kong Racing and a small one out of Jewel Master, one that was inconsequential, but I figured I'd throw it in there anyway.
I apologize for Jewel Master. I just never played it, so
No,
that's
honestly, that's not even your fault. There's really not a whole lot to talk about it unless I wanted to do a full revamp of the story, and that would take way too long. That itself would take way too long. And like, I don't want people to turn old and gray by the time I'm done explaining it. So, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. So, anything you want to pimp out, Jay?
actually I don't really have nothing. Winging the podcast Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Be on the lookout for more little stuff coming from me and you in the future. So, yeah.
That was a Wayans brother advertisement if I had heard one. But
I try. I try.
but I guess I could toot my own horn. Go ahead and listen to the pitch for Switch, Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword HD, and compare it to Nintendo's Direct from Wednesday, and point out what I said should happen and what they said would happen. And you could also do the same thing for Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. There's a picture switch called Ninja Gaiden 3D Trilogy. Covers basically the same stuff from 6 months ago. But that's it. I'll be doing other stuff. I actually have also because I started doing PlayStation game ideas called a PlayStation Recommendation. If you haven't heard either of those yet that I've already released, they're both based on God of War. One talking about doing a collection for the PS5 since they, for some reason, didn't do it with the PS4. And the other one to do a God of War Muso game that covers Kratos' life as a Spartan general. Which would
Hopefully you
be.
get all the crazy stuff.
No, 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 no. The crazy stuff happened, started there.
Okay.
That's where it started. But like I think both of those are good ones. I'm still working on more. I have one for was it Tobal I want to do, and Tomba that I want to do, but I gotta get those recorded. So that's it for this. Thank you guys for listening in, whether you caught the stream live like Trinell, or if you're listening to the playback. If anybody's interested in jumping in to do their own idea, I'm more than happy to take a back seat. But for the next one, I'm not giving the audience a choice. I'm going to do Legend of Zelda as the next one. So you guys are just going to deal with it. It may be next month. It might get pushed back. Depends on when the baby comes. Because we're looking at possibly early April. But it could be before then. So I'm giving everybody a heads up. It might not happen next month. I'll plan for it. But if it doesn't come, you all know why. Okay. That's it. So again, thank you guys for joining. And I hope you all enjoyed this. Hope you found something interesting and maybe you want to pass this along to Nintendo. Possibly Sega for the Jewel Master portion, though